Welcome to the Piston Fanatic. I'm your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been the varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in northern Michigan. Thank you for listening. Please take a second to subscribe and like this podcast. It helps me out. All I can say is Detroit basketball. Our Pistons won tonight 118 to 112 over the New Jersey Nets, who had just won 3 out of 4. They were missing a couple guys, but most teams are. But our guards were sensational. Kade Cunningham and Ivey combined for 66 points, and they were incredible. And we've been looking forward to this all year. Cade said he's been just waiting, that usually one of them has a great game or the other one has a great game, but tonight they both did. And it was a fun win, a fun game to watch. Our core four, man, the core four. Do we have something to be excited about? Even when we struggled in the first half, the core four, they were outstanding. And our bench didn't come play the greatest tonight, except James Wiseman played pretty good. But the rest of the team, the bench struggled, but he's staggering some guys. I still, it doesn't, work when he staggers, and the one starter that he leaves in with the bench group is Asar, I don't think. But he tried to match up Asar's minutes with Mikal Bridges, who he guarded him, and he held him to like 12 points tonight. So anyway, we got the Mavs on Saturday. The Mavs just beat the Heat tonight, and Luka, get to watch him play. He had his 5th consecutive triple-double where he scored 30 or more points, and he's averaging 37 since the All-Star break. So it's going to be fun. Is Asar going to guard him? I hope so. That will be fun to watch. So, but our core four was just sensational, and man, they had some great plays, just great dunks. Right at the beginning of the game, the shot clock was running down. Duran had the ball in the post. Ivey slashes to the basket, and I thought, who is that guy? Ivey jumped way over the rim and hammered it down, and then with 5 minutes left in the game, when the game was still in the balance, Cade drove right down the lane and just did a one-handed ferocious jump. He said his legs were feeling good, but Duran had a bunch of dunks. One of the best dunks of the night was Asar, but he traveled just before he took it, but he took off. He had a couple of dunks where he took off from way far back, and he cocked his arm back, and he looked like Michael Jordan when he dunked it on one of his big dunks. So yeah, it was a great game. It was fun to watch, and we shot ourselves in the foot. We had too many 22 turnovers, and they led to a bunch of points. So the game wouldn't have been close if we wouldn't have turned the ball over. We got off to a great start, 24-8, and they traveled like 6 times. It seems like it was weird, but bench group came in, and we went from being quite a ways ahead. We were ahead like 24-8, and then they caught up, and by partway through the third quarter, it was just like a 4-point game. So, and that's not all on Monty. It did tickle me though. He said he they have a back and forth about struggle between a debate over staggering Cade and Ivey, and he said the debate's between me and me, and I don't know what's the hardest struggle about. I mean, everybody knows that those two guys, one of them needs to be on the court all the time. Then we have somebody that can create shots for other people and create shots for themselves, and so it just is so much better for the offense when that happens. But it was interesting tonight. They said on the telecast that Duran is second in the league in setting screens that lead to scores. So that's one thing among many he did. He started out the game just dominating, and we went to him over and over again, and he scored quite a bit, but then we kind of went away from him. But he did have too many turnovers tonight, so that was unfortunate. But it is, we do have this young backcourt, Cade and Ivey, man. They're 22 years old, and they're this good. And, they had the 66 points, I guess, Isaiah Thomas and John Long back in 1983 in the game, the highest scoring game in NBA history. I talked about it before. It was like 188 to 186 in triple overtime. So they had triple overtime, but they scored 88 points, Isaiah and John Long combined for. So that, as good as Ivey and Cade were tonight, they were a long ways from that. So, but it does. You just wonder. We've been blessed with these backcourts in Piston history. We've had obviously Isaiah and Joe, and then we had Chauncey and Rip. So I think, of course, everybody knows that winning a championship kind of trumps everything, but they seemed to be, you know, Chauncey and Rip weren't this good this young. I can tell you that much, and they are getting better. So yeah, just welcome back, Jaden Ivey. He has been struggling. I think he was 1 for 19 on threes, and then tonight he was 6 for 9. So welcome back, and so we get that going, and we're going to be in good shape. But like I said, the Nets were 25 and 37, and they're fighting for a playoff spot, and they won 3 of their last 4 games, and so they you can say they beat a bad inferior team, but they won. So. Um, it still gets disappointing. I mean, the score was 109-105 with a few minutes left, and Isaiah and Cade had back-to-back turnovers, which, and then Cade, next 2 possessions, he comes down and hits tough jumpers that secured the game and got us back in the lead. So, yeah, lots to watch tonight and lots of fun to watch. And anyway, shout out to my granddaughter, Kira. I usually don't say her name, but they won their district game against a really good team, and she knocked down 2 free throws with 10 seconds to go to seal the deal. But she made all conference. She shattered the school record for threes in a year. She has 76 threes, and she has another game Friday. They're playing for the district championship against a phenomenal team from Belleville. So good luck to the Celine Hornets. But interesting thing, Von Tecchio, um, he was starting, and I like him in the starting group, and he doesn't get as many good looks. Things don't work out as good when he's not with the starters. They don't create shots for him, and he's been shooting. He's been on fire from three, but he just doesn't. With that second group, just doesn't create those shots for him. So I still think he should start, but I don't think this is a reason, but I don't know if you're aware of, if he starts 2 more games, then it means he started enough games where his cap hold will go up $2 or $3 million. And I would not think that the Pistons would be concerned about their cap space. I mean, we have the most cap space projected right now of any team. And so I don't think that they would not start him because of that, but weirder things have happened. I do think it's funny, people, I just thought I'd touch on this because I hear a lot of other podcasters. I listen to a lot of every Piston podcast I can and other national podcasts too, so I can, I think, do a better job for my podcast for you guys. But they talk about, they're worried about, did Mike Muscala want bought out, or did the Pistons just buy him out? And, because if he got bought out, then he could go to a contender, which he did. And so, yeah, I don't know, but like I said before, he was a good player. He didn't shoot the three. He shot like 30% for us on threes, but he did, like I said, there's a difference between a guy that, like again, Isaiah Stewart, he didn't shoot hardly any threes. He was 0 for 1 tonight. So they don't really still guard him out there, even though he's shooting a very good percentage on the year. So, but Muscala played like 13 minutes a game, and I just think people like, they make such a big deal about how much he brought to our team. And again, I'm not dissing him. He's good. He helped. I'm sure he helped, but I think we're over emphasizing how much help that he did. So anyway, we got Taj Gibson. He's 38. We just signed him today or yesterday, and to a 10-day contract, and he's older than the hills. And I'm not sure that we're going to play him. I'm not sure why we brought him in, but he was awesome to watch. He was tough and he played hard. He can't shoot. I mean, from further out than 10 feet hardly, but he had 10 or 12-foot jumper that he was really tough on. He was tough for the Bulls and for the Knicks. And anyway, again, that's just an interesting thing that we signed him. But I know we're going to hear these things. I've talked about some of them before with Cade. Cade is, for better or worse, whatever you think of Cade, he is doing historical things about scoring points and passing the ball. So I talked last episode about how he's one of only 5 great players in the league this year that's averaging 22 points and 7 assists, and all the other guys are like Hall of Famers. And then tonight he became, and it's based on games played, so he missed most of last year, but he was the 6th fastest in NBA history to get 2,500 points and 800 assists. And the big old Oscar Robertson did it the fastest. He averaged triple-double for his career. Allen Iverson, and he was fun to watch. And Luka, who again we're going to get to watch, Saturday night, it's going to be fun. Trae Young and LeBron. So those are the ones in history that fastest in games played. So good for Cade. But Sar. So again, the core four was fabulous tonight. It was, you know, Ivey and Duran and Cade and Sar all were fabulous. So, but Sar played 43 minutes, and the reason Monty said was he matched him up with Mikal Bridges, who was their star player. He had like 38, Mikal Bridges did the other night. And so every time he was on the court, they had Asar on the court. So when he rested, Asar rested. So, but Asar was 6 for 12, but he started shooting the three better, but now he chucked up 7 tonight. That's incredible that he was 2 for 7. Again, that's the hard thing about three. Two for 7 is not good, and it's not helps your team win. But 3 for 7 is good. So that's, we'll see what happens. But he was 6 for 12, so he was 4 for 5 on shots, which I think might have all been dunks. He gets up high, he gets up quick, he takes off from far away. He has that good little two-handed dunk that he does. But he had 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. He did have 3 turnovers. So a disappointing thing tonight is, and I talk about it every episode, is we have our post players, our forwards, our front line, Asar, Duran, and Stu, have too many turnovers. When you're Cade and Ivey and you handle the ball a lot, and you get a lot of usage, then you are going to make a certain number. Cade still had too many tonight, but you still are going to make more. But for Stu to have 4 turnovers and 0 assists, and he had a solid game except for the turnovers, and so he doesn't hardly touch the ball. I'm sure he would like to touch the ball more, but he was 3 for 4 shooting, but and the other times he touched it, he turned it over 4 times. So, Stu played 32 minutes, 3 for 4, like I just said, 0 for 1 on threes, 2 for 2 from the line, 10 rebounds. So he was a man down there. He was tough. And we got this little thing where we go high-low. Sometimes Duran forces it to him, and then Duran turns it over trying to force it to Stu. But, so now Stu has a guy, their biggest guy is guarding Duran. And so Stu gets their second guy. And so is able to manhandle those guys down low sometimes. So he had a really nice post up tonight in the reverse pivot and left-handed jump hook that he made. So he had 8 points. He was plus 8. Duran 30 minutes, 6 for 8, and he had I think 4 of those in the first quarter, in the first few minutes it seemed like, and 6 for 8 though is really good. 14 rebounds, and that's top 4 assists. So the 4 assists is good, but not when you have 3 turnovers. 2 steals, and I don't know if you guys have ever noticed. He seems like he has heavy feet. There's some guys they say they're light on their feet. Duran seems like he's wearing weighted boots, even though he gets up so high when he does those thunderous dunks. But when he runs down the floor, it seems like I don't know, and I don't know why if that he doesn't get up quick enough and react quick enough on help defense to block shots quite enough. That's what we all want him to do more of. So. But Kade Cunningham, 38 minutes, 10 for 18. He started out red hot. He ended up 4 for 8 on threes, but he made his first 3, I think. But he was 8 for 9 from the line. He missed our only free throw, and he's like a 90% free throw shooter. But we were 20 of 21, and the lone miss was by Kade Cunningham, who's our best free throw shooter. But 5 rebounds, 11 assists. So he's not just scoring, 32 points and 11 assists. That is an impressive game, and shooting high percentages. His true shooting is really tough, but the 5 turnovers is disappointing. But he was plus 19. Nobody was close in plus. So the minutes he was on the court, we won by 19 points. The next closest guy was plus 9. So Cade needs a max, and for those of you that don't think Cade's a good player, he is. So. He's not perfect, and he's young still, and he's getting better still, and he's going to be more consistent. But again, Simona Fontecchio, I think he's an outstanding player, and he's had, tonight he was not great, but he only played 23 minutes. He played not very minutes with the starters. I like it. Monty tries to get him in quick, and then he play with the starters, and then he tries to let him play when he starts to sub the starters back in the second quarter. He tries to let him play a little bit with them then. So I still think he's more effective. And there's statistics out there that show that our defense is better when you have Cade, Ivey, Asar, and Duran our defense is better when Fontecchio plays than it is when Isaiah Stewart plays. But again, Stewart's a good defender, but and he's not gonna change that because he loves Stewart, and it's just lots of coaches have favorites, and there's always good reasons to have Stu be one of your favorites because of his attitude and effort, and so I still think that's would be better. But Monty praised James Wiseman. And I listen to a lot of good podcasts again, and I get to hear everybody just say how terrible he is, how terrible he is. And so you watch the game tonight, and everybody still they have this blanket thing that it's the narrative and Piston talk that Wiseman is worthless, and he is not great, and he has bad games, but he doesn't. Everybody says what's costing us the game. He played 12 minutes tonight, 4 for 6. 2 for 2 from the line, 3 rebounds, a block. Monty praised him for his defense. He scored. He did good. He had 8 points or 10 points, and he had 10 points. But he's playing harder. If you think that he's just lazy and not reacting, he's intimidating some shots. He blocked one shot after it, but a foul was called before, so it didn't count for a block. But he got way up. A little bit sad thing that's happening is I love Sasser, and Sasser has had huge great moments, but he has struggled lately. And again, I talk about this all the time, is that he seems to have good games or bad games, but tonight he only played 6 minutes, so you can't hardly get going. But he's 1 for 4. His shooting percentage has just really been bad, but he's had a lot of games where he's been bad shooting and a lot of games where he's been great. And it just, like I said last episode, there doesn't seem to be anything in between. Fournier only played 13 minutes. He was 1 for 2, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 points. So he was 0 for 1 on threes. He didn't get to play much, so it didn't have much impact on the game. But it was still a nice win. We shot 52%. We didn't have those stupid turnovers. 12 for 30 from 3, which is really good for us. Like I said, 20 of 21 from free throw line. 50 rebounds to 29. We out rebounded them, so we dominated the boards. We also dominated we had 22 turnovers to their 14. So, but points in the paint, 56. So that was we hammered them there. And again, if we wouldn't have turned it over, it wouldn't have been close. And if Dennis Schroeder wouldn't have been on fire, it wouldn't have been close. But at one point they were 11 for 22 on threes. They hardly had scored. They had way more 3-point baskets in the first half than they did 2-point baskets. But Schroeder was 12 for 17 and 5 for 7 on threes, and he had 31 points. So he's bounced around. There's something about him that people don't like. He was a young player in Atlanta. He was tore it up there, and then they didn't want to keep him, so they shipped him. He went to Oklahoma City, and he played really good there. And then he went to the Lakers, and he helped them win the championship, and he played really good there. But then there's something that he rubs people wrong with. It's got to be his personality or his attitude. I don't know what it is exactly, but he was like the outstanding player this summer in the FIBA Cup tournament when his team Germany won the whole thing. And so anyway, interesting what happens in the NBA, but I'm just happy our team won. Got their double-digit wins now, 10 wins. We get to play Saturday against Luka and get to see Kyrie play, and they're fighting for their playoffs, so they're going to play with everything they got. I think our guys are going to be ready. They got a positive thing going tonight. We keep our turnovers down, and they're not great on defense. They've added some really good players, and they've really helped their roster. So we'll see what happens, but I'm excited to watch that game. And thank you for listening. Be the reason that someone feels heard. And let's go Pistons. Beat the Mavs.